If you have this mindset that you're only one conversation away from changing your whole trajectory, then the right thing is going to happen at the right time.
John Watson coaches professionals and business owners build a network and relationships that last.
People say that networking is unnatural. I take offense to that.
How do you build relationships?
Be more interested in the other person. Show up for people and be consistent.
How does it work online? How you build a relationship on LinkedIn? March 14, 2025, you woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning, drove 45 minutes. And the reason I'm telling all this is because it was for networking purposes. For anyone that knows you a little, they wouldn't be surprised. But for anyone else, I think it might be a bit quite extreme for networking purposes. So what's the story about this and what does it say about your approach of networking?
I think I'll answer the second part first, and that my approach to networking is that if you find a nice environment to connect with people, then stick with that environment. The environment is so important. If there's a positive environment, if there's a high energy environment, then it's a lot easier to connect with like-minded people because people want to be there. You never want to be stuck at a networking event where everybody's just waiting to leave. So the story behind this hike that happens every Friday morning, and I do quite regularly, is my friend Will Green wanted to meet up with another founder a couple of years ago. And what happened is he lives in the northern part of Cape Town, and the meeting was going to take place in the southern part of Cape Town. And if anyone knows, the traffic in Cape Town early morning is terrible. So for a 9 o'clock meeting, it's almost impossible to be in Cape Town by 9 o'clock. If you leave, let's say 8 o'clock, you're just going to sit in gridlock traffic. So him and his friend ended up meeting at Lion's Head, which is a very famous mountain here in Cape Town. And instead of having their meeting in a coffee shop or a hotel, they met on the mountain and had a wonderful talk and walk, as Will likes to call it. And it's become a tradition and it's become an institution here in Cape Town. And it's something that I really enjoy doing. And I enjoy inviting people to this because it's something different. Oftentimes we get requests to meet for coffee or meet me for lunch or let's have drinks after work. But very rarely do people invite you to, hey, let's go hike a mountain. Let's go for a nice walk in nature. Let's go enjoy the view in one of the most beautiful cities in the world. So that's a little bit of the backstory there, and it's absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think I've seen the photos. So yeah, it's true. It's true that usually it's more like, let's grab a coffee or let's have lunch so we can talk. That was the first time that I heard actually someone saying, yeah, you know what, let's go for a hike. So it's very different. I heard you mentioning building relationships. And I know that, I mean, it's not only me. I know it's not only me, but usually networking, we think going to an event, and exchange business cards, or even on LinkedIn, it's about, you know, collecting the connections and have tons and tons of connections. Have you always approached networking as building relationships? Or there was a shift at the moment that, yeah.
I think there was a definite shift for me in terms of networking. I would say it probably happened about 5 years ago when I started running my own networking events here in Cape Town. And I think the shift came for me is that people want to first know who they are talking to, who they are dealing with before they're going to jump into a business deal with you or immediately become your service provider or your client. And I learned a lot from two, I would call them mentors in Cape Town. One being Anthony Healy and then the other one being Gavin Peroni, who are probably about 10 to 15 years older than me. They've been around the block and they came alongside myself and Gerard Kreywagen to show us the ropes in terms of running these networking events. And I learned then about the importance of relationships because in the early stages, people were very suspicious of these networking events because it was a brand new thing that we'd started and no one kind of knew who was who at these events. And we had to build relationships from the start. We had to get to know each other, and you couldn't just throw your business cards at people. You really had to work on building those relationships. And some of those relationships turned out to be really successful and continue to this day. But there was a definite shift in that. transactional based relationships are a slippery slope and are not sustainable over time. But when you are focused on the relationship and supporting each other, and you enjoy each other's company, and you have no hidden agendas, that is when you can build a long-term relationship that can be mutually beneficial.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I see. You know, I remember when we connected on LinkedIn about a bit more than a year ago now. I remember your name on LinkedIn was John Watson CA, so I think for chartered accountant. Now I think more and more people see you and know you as a networker. So would you consider yourself as a natural networker, or it's really what you just said really changed your perspective and your mindset about how you approach networking?
Well, yes, when I was studying to become a chartered accountant, no one teaches you networking. No one teaches you how to build those relationships. So you study all these amazing things about business, tax, financial management, and auditing, but there is no like networking exam or test that you write. It's all stuff that happens as you gain experience. So I think it's definitely been a journey for me. I wouldn't describe myself as a natural networker. I've said before that I didn't even know what networking was when I was a newly qualified chartered accountant. I just knew I had a job and I had a role and I didn't want to get fired. So I better do my job well and better be a helpful person and a useful person to know. But as I got more experience in the workplace and changing roles over time and moving to different companies, I saw the power of relationships and understood that if I had a certain goal in mind and I didn't have the social capital to get there, I would have to build a relationship, or I'd have to get to know the right people, or I'd have to invest time in certain relationships to unlock new opportunities. So I think I maybe had a hidden talent or hidden gift, but it took some time for me to recognize that. And I had a lot of great people come alongside me and say, "Hey, John, you're really good at this," or "Thank you for being so supportive in my network or helping me connect the dots." And that feedback, I think, helped me realize about what I was put on this earth to do. And I really think at the age of 42, I've finally figured that out, and that's to help people connect better.
Nice. Yeah, it's true that we don't we don't learn networking at school or anywhere else. So you have to do it yourself at some point in your career. I have to say I'm a massive introvert. Even doing this podcast is really trying to step out of my comfort zone, because even for any social events, or it's really, I'm not comfortable with that. So, and somehow I always saw networking as for events for extroverts and not really for introverts. So my question is, how can introverts start leveraging their network today?
I think my encouragement to introverts is always that there's nothing wrong with you. There's a lot more introverts out there than we realize. And there's also different levels of being an extrovert and an introvert. And then you get someone that's in between, an ambivert, someone that can show characteristics of being an extrovert, but they can also quietly recharge their batteries as an introvert. So my encouragement to the quiet people out there, and I am a recovering awkward person, as some people call it, is there's nothing wrong with you. It's okay to be the quiet one. It's okay to go about your business quietly. You don't have to be large and in charge. You don't have to be loud and proud. You can build a very successful business career as a quiet person. Introverts are blessed with some characteristics that make them actually sometimes better networkers than extroverts. Remember, when extroverts walk into the room, they can dominate a conversation. They can almost bamboozle or bulldoze other people talking at an event. But the power of an introvert is that they listen a lot better. So introverts have this power of listening to others and hearing conversations and picking up on things and saying, "Hey, I heard this," or "I heard that," or that's what makes them valuable, because sometimes you'll come alongside someone at a networking event and they're going through a tough time, or they're going through a dip in their business, and they're actually just looking for someone to talk to. An extrovert's the wrong person to talk to because they're just going to talk about themselves. But an introvert will listen to you. They'll encourage you, and they might even be able to help you connect with someone that could help them out of their slump or just point them in the right direction. So the best thing to do as an introvert is to realize that you don't have to talk to everybody at an event. I always encourage people to follow the rule of one. So have one story to share. So something positive that's happened in the last week. And it might be very trivial. It might just be my new website's up, or I made my first podcast appearance, or we just had a successful product launch. And then have one connection at an event. You don't have to talk to 20 people. If you have one good conversation at an event and it was mutually beneficial, that is successful. You don't have to talk to 20 people. An extrovert might be bouncing around the room, but an introvert, if they have one good conversation or even two, that is successful. And then have one thing to share. So have one thing that you can invite someone to or share with someone. It might be a book recommendation, it might be a new podcast recommendation, or it might be a good product that you've come across or a service that you're currently using in your business. If you can share that with one person, then you've added value to them. So you don't have to be overwhelmed if there's 100 people in a networking event. You can just focus on having these small moments, listening a lot, but looking out for these one or two conversations, and that's going to be a successful event. Because we know that introverts, you're going to get tired very quickly if you try and put too much pressure on yourself or talk to too many people. So focus on the 3 ones. Have one thing to share about yourself, have one good conversation, and have one positive thing to share with other people that you find useful.
Real quick, if you're getting value from this conversation with John Watson and you want to build connection, build relationships, build a network, I've made a full breakdown of everything John shares during this conversation for free. You can get it for free. The link is in the description. Have a look. And yeah, let's go back to the episode. Okay, nice. This I can do. I think I can. This is something I think I can do. So yeah, one story, I have one conversation, and yeah, I think I can do that for sure. All right. It seems more doable than going in an event and trying to speak with 20 people. This yeah, and so yeah, earlier I mentioned that I don't think I'm the only one to think that event is about exchanging business cards and trying to speak with everyone. I'm sure that you had heard a lot of myths about networking. So what are the myths that hold us back for networking?
One of the common ones is that people say that networking is unnatural. And I take offense to that. People need each other. People are designed to connect. People are designed to talk to each other. People are designed to collaborate and partner up and share ideas and communicate. People love talking to each other. So networking is just a different vessel in which business people, like-minded people, whatever you want to call it, can come together and share ideas. Networking for me isn't just about sales. Networking is about learning. I'm learning what other people are talking about. I'm learning what challenges they are experiencing. I'm learning what service providers they are using. I'm learning how they are approaching AI. I'm learning how they are navigating 2025 in the business world. So it's not just about showing up and throwing business cards at people. So there isn't anything fake about that. People want to learn. And not everybody has everything figured out. So a networking event or an event where there is good networking is a great place to learn. It's not just about sales. And then, like we just spoke about, introverts and extroverts, a lot of times people say, well, I'm not an extrovert, so I can't network. Like I said, introverts have a lot to offer, and introverts sometimes make better networkers than extroverts. There's a book that was written by my friend Helen Nicholson. I actually had her on our podcast, and she wrote a whole book about networking for introverts, talking about the ins and outs of networking, how introverts can maximize their talents and their gifts as quiet people to have success as a networker. And then the other one is that people say, I have nothing to offer. or I don't have any value to add, or I don't know what to say. Like I said, you don't have to say a lot. If you're a good listener, if you're a good supportive person, you can make a good, strong impression on somebody. So you don't have to exchange these crazy, over-the-top stories and things like that. If you're a good listener, people will notice you and they'll appreciate you, that you listened to them, or that you offered advice, or you offered help, or you just pointed them in the right direction, and people will remember that. So I think oftentimes that we have these misconceptions about networking, and then we don't end up doing it. And I think if we can sometimes just get out of our own way, we can actually make a successful attempt at networking.
Something that I've heard many times is that it's actually, as you said, the capacity to listen. I've heard it actually from for people in networking, but people in sales as well. When someone asks them, like, what's the one skill that really changed everything for you? Multiple times I heard people saying listening. So yeah, I think I totally understand what you mean. Now I'm going to speak because basically this is for podcasters mostly that will listen to this. And I know that as a podcaster, you meet a lot of people. So you connect with a lot of people. Like in networking, you connect a lot. How do you build relationships? What's the process to build a relationship?
I think the foundation of building a relationship, especially in the beginning when you've just met somebody for the first time, and you see some potential in the relationship, is to be more interested than interesting. Be more interested in the other person. You've got enough time to tell them about your life story and about how amazing you are, but find out as much as you can about them. And that starts with being curious. Ask good questions, ask follow-up questions, ask, well, that's an interesting decision. How did you come to that? Or why did you decide to move your company from America to the UK? Or why did you decide to do this? Or why did you say that on LinkedIn, in case you met somebody on LinkedIn? So be curious about what's going on in other person's life, because that's where you can pick up a lot of information. And remember, like I said, it's not just about selling. Networking isn't just about selling. Remember, a person that you meet at a networking event, that might not be your ideal client, but they might know the right people that you need to know. So if you just dismiss them and say, I'm not interested in this person because they're not a client of mine, well, you've lost access to their network. But if they're a nice person and you enjoy them and you've got a good energy feel for them as well, then it's worth being curious about them and following up. And then to stay consistent is key. I say this a lot at my talks that I give. Consistency is key. You can't just network one day a year or go to one event a year. Networking success accelerates when you consistently show up. So if I just did that hike on a Friday morning on Lions Head in Cape Town once, well, I had a good story to show and to post about on LinkedIn. But over the time of the last 6 months, as I've been doing it regularly, I've built relationships with the people there because they get familiar with me, they see me, we catch up on a weekly basis, we build a relationship, we talk to each other, we share more. And over time, that relationship is built. And the consistency there is the magic formula. So there is no shortcut. I always say the long way is the shortcut. The long way to building relationships, showing up, being consistent. And then the magic sauce in between all of this is adding value. So if you're having a conversation with someone and you hear them complain about their website designer or their marketing person, then offer help and say, hey, I know a good guy who just did my website, or I heard a great recommendation from a friend on a marketing team. So share that information with the person that you're trying to build a relationship with and add value to them. And just know that these relationships compound over interest and they will pay dividends over time. So they might not necessarily pay off in the first 6 months or the first 6 years, but maybe 10, 15 years down the line, this relationship opens up an incredible door, an opportunity for you. And then you'll realize the importance of relationship and be grateful for the time that you spent with these people.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes so much sense. You can't build a relationship in 3 minutes. You need to show up regularly because it takes time. So it makes so much sense. Um, I have a question though, because for example, you and I, we connected on LinkedIn. So there's no event that we can go regularly and meet there. So how does it work online? How you build a relationship on LinkedIn?
I think on LinkedIn, it's an interesting platform. There's a lot of founders, a lot of creators, there's a lot of content to consume. But if someone is worth your attention and you believe that you're worth their attention, then show up for them. So like and comment on their posts, especially if they resonate with you. And then if, for example, they provide a useful service or have a useful product that someone else can use, then recommend them to your friends as well. And you can say, hey, look, I connected you with my friend Ben. He really likes the videos that you make. I hope you can have a quick call with him and maybe there's some synergy there. So there's a couple of different ways to show up. Obviously, these type of things, they need to almost work both ways. If you're going to have one-sided relationships, they are going to eventually fizzle out. And sometimes they do, and there's no hard feelings. It's just part of life. I mean, some of our in-person relationships, people that are in our city or in our town, they also fizzle out over time. And that's just how it is. People go through different seasons. They might be having different pressures at work or family or whatever. But I really think on the virtual side, just show up for people and be consistent. Post consistently yourself, but also like and comment on other people's stuff. Show that you're interested. And also, if there's someone that you can connect them with, then connect them. Because the more people you connect others with, the more that others will connect you with as well.
Yeah. I remember that we connected because I wanted to edit video content for people, and I asked someone that we both know, and I asked him, why do you if you know someone that would accept that I interview them for 30 minutes and I do video content, and he said, yeah, there's John there, you should chat with him. So yeah, totally relate to, yeah, that's how we connected. So yeah, it really makes so much sense. Do you have an example of someone that you helped either offline or online for networking? Because it's not easy to get it right. We often feel like, yeah, this doesn't work or we've done something wrong. So do you have an example of someone that you help for networking?
I've got two examples. I've got I'll start with a crazy example that I actually posted about on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, where a friend of mine, Marco, who's a really cool dude and would make a spectacular podcast guest as well. He's also dabbled in podcasting and videos. And him and I were having a chat, and he asked me a very specific question about connections that he was looking for. And no one had ever asked me this question. And I just happened to have a lead list of qualified leads that contained 416 company names, email addresses, and cell phone numbers. And I'd never used it myself. And I just had this document. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. I don't want to give the game away. But because it was something that I couldn't really use myself, I said, hey, Marco, I've got this document. You're welcome to use it. So I turned one quick conversation into 416 leads for someone. And it was just a random occurrence and a bit of a full circle moment, because I'd had this document that I hadn't used for a couple of years. And it just completely blew his mind, and he's off to the races in terms of connecting the dots there and trying to make stuff happen in terms of his online marketing and meta ads. So that was quite a crazy example. And these types of connections, you can't really plan them. Sometimes they just happen spontaneously. Sometimes they just happen out of the blue. And another one happened where a friend of mine who's on a WhatsApp group with me, on a different networking group, she posted that she needed some advice in terms of the structuring of her company and the structuring of the shareholding and things like that. And I'd recently connected with another friend of mine, and I said, you need to speak to this person. And fast forward about 2 weeks later, we met up at an event, and she came running to me from the other side of the room at this networking event, and she gave me a big hug, and she had tears in her eyes, and she was so grateful that I'd connected her with this person. And then she explained the whole story about what was actually going on in her company and the ups and downs and things like that. And I was just completely blown away. I mean, I didn't know the entire backstory. She'd posted this short little blurb on WhatsApp, and I just responded. I said, hey, I think you should talk to this friend of mine. And she did. And I was so proud of her. I said, well, thank you so much for following up in that, because a lot of times connections happen and people say, hey, speak to this person or speak to that person. And then we never end up doing that. And then you lose that magic, you lose that connection. So yeah, those are two recent examples. There's been countless examples over the years. And in terms of my business, not every connection I make or introduction I make is going to bring me an income necessarily, but I still do it because I still believe the universe works in your favor when you are doing the right thing, when you are living with your hands open and sharing the best that you can.
I really like these examples, because that truly show like the power of networking. And something that I noticed as well, you correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like we often don't want to ask for some reasons. I know for myself, I'm not comfortable with asking. But I can see on LinkedIn as well that a lot of people could be in position to just ask the question to someone or to the network, but they don't do it. So how do you see things about this?
Yeah, in terms of LinkedIn, I think it's a wonderful platform if you use it correctly. If you're just going to blast out adverts, if you're just going to say look at me, and not add any value, I think you're going to run out of friends. You might get some attention, but people are going to see through that. But if you can help people solve specific problems, if you can connect the dots, if you can support them in your way, if you can share the advice that has worked for you, I think that makes you a useful person to know. We all want useful people in our network that are there for us, that can support us, that can encourage us, that can just be a shoulder to cry on when we need to. So it works both ways. If you're that for somebody else, it's definitely going to come back to you from other people. And I've seen that in my own network. I've seen that in other people's networks. So your network is like a garden. You need to water it. You need to prune it. You need to be engaged with it. You need to maintain it. You need to engage with it. And over time, you create this wonderful garden, this wonderful network around you that's working for everybody. It's not just to serve you. It's to serve the other people in your network as well. You're taking care of your friends, your family, your other connections, your acquaintances as well in your network.
Yeah. It's not only about, it's not only about you. It's mostly about helping the others. And then, that's the whole point of it. It makes so much sense. I'd love to go deep on networking, but, I know as well that you have a podcast, The Right Place podcast, and I want to talk about this as well. I know you've started, you launched the podcast with Rudolph, your co-host. I think that with Rudolph, you go way back. So why was that important to start the podcast with Rudolph?
It was a very interesting time in my life, and I think also in Rudolph's life. So in my life, I had been a CA for many years. I'd done a lot of CA work, done some consulting work. And in 2023, my family went through a hard time. We lost my mother, we lost my father-in-law. We had to pick up the pieces. We had a lot of drama, and it really shook the foundations of our family. At that same time, Rudolph was also moving from a large corporate company. There'd been a bit of a fallout, and he also had to kind of pick up the pieces. And we started talking, and we reconnected again, and we were having these conversations, and we were helping each other out. And I had this idea for a podcast in probably the early 2023, but I never had the name. And I didn't want to call it the networking podcast or let's talk about networking or something like that. I needed a name, and names were important to me. And I thought, well, if we had the right name, then it would give us direction. And I one day just thought of the right place. It's like Rudolph and I were both looking for our right place. We're both in our early 40s. We've been around the block. We've got family. We've had a career. We've made decisions. We've had success. We've had failure. And now we are looking for our right place. And I said, well, let's make a podcast about that. And we were both involved in networking events. Like, let's talk about how to connect people better. Let's talk to some guests about how did they connect? How did they grow their following? How did they grow their business? Who did they connect with? And it was kind of born out of this own journey we were going on, and this journey that we were almost thrust upon by circumstances that happened in our lives. And it's been one of the best things I've ever started. And it's been wonderful to grow with Rudolph through this process, but also we've met some incredible people, had some really, really cool guests. We're up to 66 episodes now of the podcast, and it's opened a lot of doors for us. It's helped us with our visibility. It's helped us with content creation, but it's also helped us give back in terms of, guys, it's okay. No one has absolutely everything figured out. No one knows exactly what's going on or if they're on the right path, but we can all support each other in terms of finding our own right place. And what we say on the podcast is the right place is your intersection between your roles and your relationships and your environment. So you might be in the right role, but you don't have the right relationships around you, or you're working in a toxic environment. Well, that's not necessarily your right place. So it was a discussion based on that. And we interview guests. Rudolph and I have our own podcast in between where we talk to each other about this concept or what we've learned at a networking event. And yeah, it's just been a wonderful experience. It's one of the best things I've ever done. And yeah, I don't think we're ever going to stop. I definitely don't want to stop. I enjoy it too much.
Yeah. I remember you had told me that it was the best thing that you have started, I think, in the last 5 years, that it had opened so many doors. So yeah, that's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing the podcast. So yeah, so it's beautiful to hear that. I have a closing question, but before that, we talk a lot about about networking. What would be the best place to find you? Because you're both active offline, online. You're a member of the Lika network as well. So yeah, what would be the best place to find you?
Well, the best place to find me is probably on LinkedIn at the moment. I'm checking in there every single day, but also johnconnects.com. There's some more information about me there. There's the link to my link tree as well. And then to look up the Right Place podcast on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. And then, yes, I'm also involved with the Lika Network, which is a great platform connecting South African business owners, not just in South Africa, but around the world as well. So I'm heading up the Cape Town chapter there. And if you're in Cape Town ever on a Friday, then look up Will's Green Walks. It's every Friday morning about 6 o'clock at the base of Lion's Head. And it's one of the best networking events in the entire world, I believe. So yeah, you can normally find me there. And if I'm not there, you get to meet a whole bunch of other cool people as well.
Beautiful. I'll put all the links in the description. But what's the story, by the way, about the Lika network? How did you get into this network?
Well, the way that I got into it is I've been following Renier Lombard for a while. We've connected on LinkedIn. He's a proper LinkedIn guru here in South Africa. He's got an LinkedIn agency called FDC, and they've got clients all over South Africa, but also all over the world. I think the majority of their clients are around the world. And when the Lika Network started last year, I was one of the founding members that came on board. And I pitched them. I said, hey, I'd love to get involved. I'd love to help. I'd love to contribute. My own networking event here where I live in Cape Town had kind of run its course, and I'd done it for 5 years. So I was looking for a new challenge and something with high energy and high impact. And so I approached them and they said, hey, John, we'd love you to come on board. So I came on board as the chapter head of Cape Town. I ended up being the MC as well at the launch event, which happened on the 14th of March here in Cape Town, which was probably the biggest event I've ever been an MC at. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, we are still early days. There's about 250 members on board so far. There's a pipeline of about a couple of hundred other people coming through. It's a paid for membership. It's a curated membership. There's an interview process, and that's to admit the right people to the network, people that are there with the intent on helping other South African business owners in South Africa and around the world, and to connect the dots. So it's still early days, but so far it's been a wonderful experience. There's a high-powered team behind the scenes working at connecting the dots and supporting the members. So it's only going to get bigger and better.
Yeah, that's all I wish for you, because from the outside it really is like it looks like it's gonna get massive, but in the right way as well. Not something that is big, but actually everyone is selfish. It really looks nice from the outside. So wishing you all the best for this network for sure.
Thank you.
We've talked about networking, we've talked about connecting, we talked about building relationships, offline and online. What's the one takeaway you hope that the listener, the viewer, myself implement starting today?
I would say start today. Don't put this off any longer. One day you will turn around and you'll connect the dots, and you'll be grateful for the people you connected with in 2025. You can only connect the dots looking back. So you don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know where it's going to go, and there's no guarantee of success. But if you do nothing, well, nothing's going to happen. So if you have this mindset that you're only one conversation away from changing your whole trajectory, your whole life, your whole business, your whole outlook, then the right thing is going to happen at the right time. So keep putting yourself out there, keep trying. There's so much content available. There's so much books. There's so much things on LinkedIn as well. So there's almost no excuse not to network and put yourself out there. And yes, if things go wrong, or if you fail, or you didn't enjoy an event, well, that's good information. Now you know. So now you can refocus your energy and your efforts elsewhere. So start today.
John Watson, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the time and the effort and the energy you put into this. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you found value from this conversation with John Watson. If you did, please consider liking this video, follow the channel, because it helps the podcast big time. As for me, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.